Hello, my name is Dr. Mary Mba. I am an Associate Professor of French and Francophone Studies at Cottey College in Nevada, Missouri, in the United States of America. Today, I'm going to present on a topic I titled Teaching French and Francophone Cultures Through Students' Culture Presentations and Publications. I want to extend my gratitude to the Eurasia Research Group for allowing me this opportunity to present what I do in my class. In today's presentation, I'm going to look at some of the challenges that students face that cause students not to want to participate in French classes. I will talk about the dwindling of enrollment in French classes, and I will share how I have been able to transform my program, my French program at Cottey College, and make students to want to come to class. I want to start with these quotes by Benjamin Franklin. It says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." There are three segments to these quotes. The first one describes a very traditional classroom, which is instructor or teacher-centered, where the teacher is the one who gives all the knowledge, who tells students. In a French class, this teacher is the one who models everything. This teacher just tells students, and students are there listening and trying to absorb everything. In the next segment, the teacher teaches, maybe gets students to regurgitate, is an inductive kind of classroom. The teacher teaches and then asks students to respond to questions, and they do. But in both of these two different setups, the students are not really actively involved. They are not engaged. They will end up forgetting once they get their grades or once they leave the classroom, because they have not really practiced it, they will forget. And then the last segment says, involve me and I learn. And this is what I want to focus on today, is about how to create an engaging classroom where students actually participate actively, where students are producers of knowledge, where students have more autonomy. And that way, and also where students actually enjoy coming to class because they get to share, they get to produce knowledge and share. In recent years, enrollment in French classes in the United States has progressively dwindled, and many colleges and universities have closed their French programs due to low enrollment. According to Looney and Lucen, in their reports published by the Modern Languages Association of America in 2018, entitled Enrollments in Languages Other than English in the United States Institutes of Higher Education, Summer 2016 and Fall 2016, Preliminary Reports. They noted that between 2013 and 2016, enrollment in French classes dropped by 11.1%. In fact, when I went to their website, to the website that they use, I checked the enrollment between 2009 and 2016, and I noticed that enrollment actually fell by 18.4%. In some cases, French is only kept as an elective among other foreign languages, or it is only required to fulfill a foreign language requirement without leading to a major. According to Johnson in 2019, the causes of the decline in enrollments and programs beyond the economic crunch remain subject to debate. Some academics point to colleges' prioritization of STEM programs and to the long-term effects of colleges dropping language requirements, end of quote. However, the cause of low enrollments in French classes in the United States is oftentimes because of students' lack of interest in the learning of the language, lack of immediate utilitarian benefits of French in the United States, traditional teaching methods, and/or students' inability to see themselves in the French classroom, which lead them to boredom and lack of motivation to participate in the French classroom. As research has shown, students tend to disengage from a learning activity that they do not consider to be worthy of their time or effort. However, When students feel that they are a part of the knowledge production process, and when they can bring their interest into the class, they are more motivated to be engaged in the class. In this paper, I am exploring some of what causes students lack of engagement in a French classroom, especially at the beginner level. I will equally show with examples how I have succeeded in making my students active participants in French and Francophone cultures knowledge acquisition, production, and sharing. I will show how the use of multimodal and multimedia delivery of content has helped transform my students' learning experience and helped to establish the French program in my college. In the tables that I show here, you can see these tables represent the entire United States. You can actually drop down and use a drop-down menu and look at different states and different colleges to see the enrollment. And looking at this, between 2016 and 2013, there was a drop of 11.1% in enrollment. And between 2016 and 2009, there was an 18.4% drop in enrollment. Some of the participation challenges for students in French classes include the fact that they are taking that language just as a requirement that doesn't lead to a major or minor. This creates a lack of interest as students want to focus on courses that are leading to their major or minor or certificate programs. But this lack of interest and focus and participation in French end up hurting the students, because when they don't do well and they don't do well in French, what happens is that their poor grade in French will still pull down their overall grade point average, GPA. Also, some students are shy or afraid of speaking French in front of other students because they feel like they're not good enough, they can't speak this language well, or because there are some false beginners. False beginners are people who have already taken some French previously or who come from French-speaking areas. So these students who are false beginners tend to intimidate and scare those who are true beginners, making them to not want to participate actively in a French class. Students who have language-based learning disabilities, such as dyslexia, have problems with participating actively because they can't really distinguish sounds or pronounce them correctly. So some of these students will also be afraid to participate actively in a French class. Traditional teacher-centered class setup can also deter students from actively in a French class. In order to be able to design a participation and engagement-centered class, it will be necessary to understand the students' reasons for enrolling in the class. Why are the students there? Are they there because they want to learn to speak the French, or they will just want to fulfill a requirement? Are they there because they want to practice their careers in another culture and they just want to understand that culture? Knowing that will help the instructor in designing the class. Instructors must be willing to try a wide range of both in-class and outside of the class activities that will allow students to explore, to engage in knowledge production. This will obviously lead to a deviation from the traditional teaching style. Instructors must be willing, especially in this era of technology, to use technology to allow students to explore using technology, blogs, YouTube videos, and other ways of sharing knowledge. But students have to be involved in the production of knowledge in order for them to really want to be in the class. And this is also the use of multimodal, multimedia output in the class. The teacher has to use this and also encourage students to use them as well. Personally, I really believe that going from known to unknown is a really good way, and cultures are what everyone practices. We all have culture. In the age of globalization, having students explore culture or explore their culture, what happens in their culture in other cultures, is a way to open them up to know those other cultures and see their humanity and want to know more about them. I will encourage instructors too to personalize instructions. Personalizing instructions, which means that wherever you teach, allowing students to apply this to themselves, to their situations, to their own personal lives, will allow them to actually think of their own lives in French, or how their lives compare, so that they are constantly trying to make it about themselves and their interests. And finally, engaging students in the production and sharing of culture knowledge is a great idea. And in this way, what I mean is, do not assign culture topics to students. Let them look at their interests, their majors, their minors, their career goals, what they want to do, and let them explore those. Let them pick those. Be the moderator. Now, culture is transferable. Culture is everywhere. So I believe that talking about culture really helps students to want to be in the class, really make them want to share. I have noticed that in my classes, culture days are just the greatest. Students, everybody participates, everybody wants to talk in the class. So focusing on that really will help the class. Cultures are more engaging than grammar, than other structures that we teach in the class. Cultural presentations can be made into collaborative activities, so they are quite versatile, the use of culture. It is also easier for students to peer review cultural presentations because they can ask questions, they can say what is being done well and what is not being done well in that presentation than they can in maybe just an essay written in French. Cultural presentations also eliminate spontaneous participation, which goes on to reduce students' anxiety about participating in the class. This is because students have to practice and prepare ahead of time, whether it is their culture blogs, whether it's their YouTube video. They actually practice this before they put out the content. Even the presentations they give in class, they practice this, they do the research, they explore before they share. So that reduces students' anxiety. Culture presentations are easy ways for students to get points. And this is also because oftentimes, well, they are prepared for the presentation, and also sometimes at the preliminary classes, elementary level, presentations are done in English. Presentations allow the class to learn more about Francophone cultures than if the teacher was just teaching it, or if they were just basing everything on the textbook. Because when students are able to explore their interests and then share their interests, the findings about how their interest is practiced in other cultures, it enlightens everyone in the class. Students can produce and share their cultural contents and presentations in different media and modes. And students can also work, cultural presentations can work in any class setting and format: synchronous classes, asynchronous classes, blended, and classes. In my class, when I came to Cottey College in the fall of 2016, enrollment was very low. I was scared. I had never had such low enrollment in any classes because I came from a big university to Cottey College, and that was why I had to become creative, think of what I could do. I made so many changes. First of all, I established a very active French club. The club became very active. We do so many cultural activities. We have back sales. We established so many traditions: Mardi Gras, Francophone Week, National French Language Week. And during each of these periods, we produce so many things. We share a lot about French and Francophone cultures. Then I revamped the program. I kind of expanded the scope. Instead of just teaching about, the language or about European nations that speak French, I expanded it to include all 84 member nations of the Francophonie organization, and students can choose from any of these to talk about and present. Then I established a minor in French once enrollment had increased in the classes and students wanted to get minor in French. That was easily approved because everybody could see all the contents that we were producing, all the things that students were doing on campus. And with this came also the change of the name of the program. It used to be French program, then we changed it to French and Francophone to reflect what students were actually doing. I tried to get to know my students early on, right from before I even meet them the first time. So I know why they are coming to my class. I know if they just want to fulfill a requirement, and I do want them to do well. I want them to have fun in my classes. So focusing on culture and building from culture, even in the language production, in knowledge production and everything, really takes students in, pull them in, and make them want to be in the class. It boosts students' participation because now they are knowledge producers and they can share their knowledge and they are excited about sharing their knowledge. I seek out and create avenues for students to share their work beyond the classroom. My students participate in academic showcases on campus, in writing competitions when they submit their work, in poster presentations during multicultural festivals. I give extra credit, I give incentives to students, and I also provide recognition through certificates of participation, publication of their essay, and those showcasing of their work. I have to go through this and select work that can be shared to the campus community. Now, these are some of the ways that my students can share their culture presentations. Their topic has to be unique. It has to be about something that interests them. I will not accept just food. Generic topics are not allowed. Students have to actually be creative and do things that are very personal to them and that they can see themselves doing in the future. For example, I've had students talk about tattooing because this student wants to be a tattoo artist. Later on, that's what she wants to practice. I have students talk about nutrition instead of just food. So this kind of helps to diversify the topics and make them very interesting. And they can share through poster exhibits, culture blogs, YouTube videos, and those in the art can produce poetry, dance, music, drawing, and so on and so forth. People in the sciences, I've had them talk about women in the sciences and so on and so forth. People in sports have talked about maybe soccer in Niger Republic. These links lead to our publication, La Francophonie at Cottey College. Started publishing this in 2018 to celebrate Francophonie Week. And what we do is to gather students' essay, read them for uniqueness and completion, as well as the citation, use of authentic sources. And then the club president and some other people who are interested in journalism and writing will become the editorial group, myself as well, and we will read those and thematize them or put them in alphabetical order and then publish. These other links show individual issues from 2018 to 2020. We are still working on our 2021 issue. This annual journal publication has become a medium for celebrating French students' achievements, a space where we document the annual activities of the French Club. It has become a recruitment tool for the French program because it is searchable. Anybody can see it. It is on our webpage. Prospective students can actually see this and see in it. We have the requirements for getting a minor, the courses that students can take, and this draws students in. It has also become a viable medium through which our students can teach the community about French and Francophone cultures. I don't have to do this because now students are helping me in teaching about French and Francophone. Finally, it will be for instructors in the United States to improve enrollment in French classes. They must be willing to deviate from traditional teaching methods. They must be willing to recognize and focus on the learning and academic needs of their students. They can think of expanding the scope of their French program and give students more autonomy through cultural research and sharing. And then they must also be willing to allow students use different modes and media in sharing their findings with the class and with the college as well, or with anyone else, because my students also share their blogs with their family members and friends to see how they are progressing and the content that they produce. Thank you. And these are my references.